You know that feeling? The one you can't quite explain when you're with them. Everything looks perfect on paper. They say all the right things, promise you the world, and for a moment, you feel like you've finally found the missing piece. But then, there's this gnawing, this quiet, persistent ache in your gut, a whisper in your soul that says, wait, something here is broken, and you ignore it. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, ungrateful, or just scared of something good. You push through the discomfort, the confusion, the arguments that seem to come from nowhere. You pour more love, more patience, more of yourself into trying to make it work. But it feels like trying to fill a black hole with a teaspoon. You are exhausted, emptied, and lost. What if? What if that entire struggle wasn't about you failing? What if every slammed door, every canceled plan, every gut-wrenching betrayal, and every moment of soul-crushing confusion wasn't a random act of chaos? What if it was, in fact, the most profound act of love you've ever experienced? What if God, the universe, your own highest self, whatever you believe in, was placing those roadblocks, those painful endings, those gut instincts, directly in your path to stop you from walking, willingly and blindly, into a cage of your own destruction? Today, we're not just talking about red flags. We're decoding divine intervention. We're looking at the 10 undeniable signs that you were being actively, fiercely protected from a narcissist. This is your wake-up call. This is your validation. Let's begin. We are taught that the end of a relationship, especially one we fought for, should feel like a funeral. We brace for overwhelming grief, a void of sadness, a sense of failure so deep it colors the world gray. And yes, there is pain. There is mourning for the dream, for the person you thought they were, for the future you pictured. But what if, buried under that legitimate sorrow, there is another feeling? One you're almost afraid to admit because it feels wrong, even shameful. What if, when the door finally closes, when the last text is sent, when the silence settles, your first full breath in months feels like clean, cool air filling lungs you didn't realize were suffocating? That initial feeling, that gut punch not of despair, but of profound, unsettling relief, that is not a character flaw. That is sign number one. A relationship with a narcissist is a state of perpetual psychological siege. Your nervous system is constantly on high alert, scanning for subtle shifts in tone, for the next criticism disguised as concern, for the withdrawal of affection that follows any assertion of your own needs. You live in fight or flight, which is exhausting on a cellular level. When that siege is lifted, even if it was you who was defeated and left, your body knows before your mind does. The constant alarm bells stop ringing. The adrenaline that was your baseline begins to recede. The space that was filled with walking on eggshells is now just space. And in that space, relief floods in. This relief is often your spirit's first, most honest cry of gratitude. It is the divine within you, the part that was never fooled, finally being able to exhale and say, "You're safe now." The threat is gone. The narcissist's presence was a toxin, and your soul was reacting to it every single day. The grief you feel is for the illusion, for the potential, for the love you gave. But the relief is for you, the real, authentic you who is now free from the constant assault on your reality. Don't let anyone, especially not the voice in your head that they programmed, tell you this relief is cold or means you never cared. It means you cared so much you were willing to die a slow death for a mirage. And now, a deeper, wiser part of you is rejoicing at the chance to finally live. This relief is God's first and most immediate gift to you after your escape. It's the proof that you weren't pulled from something good. You were rescued from something poison. Honor that feeling. It is your compass, pointing you toward true healing, away from the prison you called love. In the beginning, they weren't just charming. They were a masterpiece sculpted just for you. They mirrored your hopes, echoed your dreams, and presented themselves as the answer to prayers you hadn't even spoken aloud. They were the perfect partner, the ideal friend, the visionary leader. They were, in essence, an idol you were encouraged to worship, an idol of love, success, or destiny. But idols have a divine deadline. They cannot withstand the relentless light of truth and time. Sign number 2 is the glorious, messy, painful sabotage of that idol. It wasn't your fault. It was inevitable. God does not let his children worship false gods for long. To do so would be to condemn you to a life of lies. So, he allows the mask to slip. Not all at once. That would be too easy to rationalize away, but in a series of calculated, undeniable glitches. The loving partner suddenly delivers a cruel comment that hits a secret insecurity. The generous friend conveniently forgets to pay you back, then makes you feel petty for asking. The inspirational leader takes credit for your work in a meeting. In that moment, the pristine idol gets a crack. You see it. You freeze. And then, they gaslight. You're too sensitive. I was joking. You misunderstood. After all I've done for you, this is what you focus on. This cycle, the crack, then the gaslighting repair, is the demolition of the false idol. Every time their true, self-serving, entitled, or callous nature peeked through, it was a moment of grace. It was the universe, holding up a mirror to the reality. Behind the fantasy, you were being shown the truth because you were loved, too much to be left in the dark forever. Their inability to maintain the perfect facade wasn't a failure of your worthiness. If only I was better, they wouldn't have to act this way. It was the failure of a lie to sustain itself. The very traits you fell for, the intensity, the confidence, the grand promises, are the same traits that inevitably expose them. A real diamond doesn't fear pressure. A fake one shatters. Your job was not to keep the idol polished and perfect. Your job, in that divine intervention, was to finally see it for what it was, plaster and paint, not gold. The confusion you felt was the cognitive dissonance between the God you worshipped and the flawed, often cruel, human being revealed. That dissonance is holy friction. It's designed to make you so uncomfortable in the lie that you have no choice but to seek the truth. The sabotaged idol is not a tragedy. It's a liberation. It means God cared more about your authenticity than your comfort. He loved you too much to let you waste your worship on something that would never love you back. In the lush, noisy landscape of the narcissist's charm, the love bombing, the future faking, the intense conversations, there was always a quieter, subtler sound. A whisper. It came in the moments of silence after they left the room. It was the feeling in your stomach when they told a story that didn't quite add up. It was the flicker in their eyes that didn't match the smile on their lips. This whisper had no words, but it carried a single, powerful message: danger. You heard it. And then you spent months, maybe years, trying to shout it down. Sign number 4 is that relentless, divine whisper of your own intuition, which never went silent, even when you tried to drown it out. Your intuition is not a paranoid thought. It is the language of your soul. It is the accumulation of all your lived experience. Your subconscious processing millions of data points, micro-expressions, tone shifts, patterns of behavior, long before your conscious mind can articulate a problem. In a relationship with a healthy person, your intuition is calm, a quiet background hum of safety. With a narcissist, it becomes a clanging alarm bell. But they, and the part of you that wanted so badly to believe the fantasy, work tirelessly to discredit that alarm. They call it anxiety. They call it insecurity from past relationships. They call it a lack of trust. Here is the truth. God often speaks loudest through the quiet voice within you. That gut feeling, that something is off sensation, was your first and most direct line of divine protection. It was the spirit within you, which cannot be deceived, trying to pull you back from the cliff's edge. Every time you ignored it to give them the benefit of the doubt, you were overriding a sacred warning system. The ensuing confusion, are they toxic or am I crazy, was the direct result of choosing their narrative over your own inner knowing. The miracle is that the whisper never stopped. Even in your deepest confusion, a part of you knew. That is the part to celebrate. That is the part that survived intact. Your healing begins when you stop apologizing for that whisper and start listening to it as the voice of your own salvation. It was never you against them. It was the God in you, fighting for the you in the world. That intuition is your birthright and your compass. It didn't fail you. You are here, reading this, because it ultimately succeeded. There is a particular kind of emptiness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being with someone who makes you feel utterly lonely while standing right beside them. It's the emptiness of looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger staring back, someone with tired eyes, a forced smile, and a hollowed-out spirit. The vibrant, opinionated, joyful, or peaceful person you once were has been replaced by an anxious, defensive, confused shell. You don't know what you like anymore. You second-guess every decision. Your sense of humor feels rusty. Your passions have faded. This, sign number 5, is the erosion of self, and it is one of God's most severe warnings. A narcissist relates to the world through a process of ingestion and projection. They ingest your qualities, your warmth, your passions, your style, your strengths, and then reflect back to you a distorted version. Or worse, claim them as their own. Simultaneously, they project their own shame, insecurity, and rage onto you. You become the container for all the parts of themselves they cannot face. After a while, you are left holding the bag of their toxic waste, while they walk around looking brighter, having fed off your light. This erosion is not a personal failure. It is the systematic outcome of psychological vampirism. But from a spiritual perspective, this feeling of self-loss is a critical juncture. It is the universe making the consequences of this relationship so visceral, so undeniable, that you cannot ignore it any longer. Pain in your heart can be rationalized. Pain in your identity is a crisis. God allows this crisis because it often becomes the only thing powerful enough to break the trance. That moment of looking in the mirror and not knowing who you are is a holy rock bottom. It is the point where the lie, "This is a good relationship," can no longer coexist with the lived reality, "I am," disappearing. This anguish is a form of divine mercy. It is the fire that burns away the false self you were becoming to please them, so that your true self, though wounded and buried, has a chance to rise from the ashes. The person you miss isn't gone. They are buried under layers of adaptation and survival. The erosion is the sign that it's time to start digging. Isolation is the cornerstone of control. A narcissist's first order of business is to separate you from your support system, the people who see you clearly and love you unconditionally. They do this subtly, criticizing your friends, creating dramas that force you to choose sides, monopolizing your time, or portraying your family as toxic or holding you back. But what happens when, despite their best efforts, your people refuse to go quietly? Sign number 6 is the stubborn, loving rebellion of the people who saw the truth and risked your anger to tell you. These are the loyal rebels, the friend who says, "I don't like how they talk to you," even when you're glowing from the love-bombing phase. The sibling who asks pointed questions about your bank account or your subdued demeanor. The coworker who pulls you aside and says, "You seem different. Are you okay?" The parent who doesn't buy the charming act and remains cautiously distant. In the moment, their concern feels like an attack, a betrayal, a lack of support for your happiness. The narcissist will fuel this, framing them as jealous, controlling, or wanting to keep you from your destiny. But see this through a spiritual lens. These people are often God's messengers. They are the hands and feet of divine intervention, placed strategically in your life to hold up a mirror when you've dropped your own. They are not swayed by the narcissist's charisma because their loyalty is to you, not to the fantasy. Their love for you is a fortress the narcissist cannot fully breach. Their persistent questions, their worried looks, their unwillingness to welcome the narcissist with open arms, this is not them being difficult. This is them holding the line for your soul. When multiple people from different areas of your life voice the same concern, it is no longer an opinion. It is a consensus of love. It is the universe shouting through human voices, "Open your eyes." Thank God for these rebels. They were your lifeline, even when you were biting the hand that held it. Their courage to speak up, knowing you might push them away, was a sacrifice of love for your ultimate well-being. Reconnecting with them isn't just about rebuilding friendships. It's about returning to the people who guarded your true identity while you were away at war. You tried. Oh, how you tried. To make the relationship work, to build a life, to collaborate on a project. But it felt like trying to run a marathon in quicksand. Every step forward was met with a mysterious resistance. Plans you made together would inexplicably fall apart. Promises of introductions or opportunities would evaporate. Jobs you pursued together would fall through at the last second. Moves to new cities would be thwarted by bizarre logistical issues. You'd chalk it up to bad luck, poor timing, or your own incompetence. The narcissist would certainly blame you for it. But what if it wasn't bad luck? What if it was divine interference? Sign number 3 is the series of closed doors, blocked paths, and sabotage plans that kept you from fully enmeshing your life with theirs. Think of it as spiritual road construction. You're headed for a bridge that's out, but you're too focused on the destination to see the warning signs. So, a loving force puts detours in your way. A flat tire, a missed flight, a sudden illness. These aren't punishments. They are protections. When you are with a narcissist, deeper entanglement means deeper damage. Moving in together, getting married, starting a business, having a child. These are points of no return that make escape infinitely harder. God, in His mercy, will often break the logistics to save your soul. That job you didn't get that would have tied you financially to them? Protection. That apartment lease that fell through so you couldn't move in together? Protection. That chance meeting with an old friend who voiced concerns right before you were about to propose? Protection. These aren't mere coincidences. They are the universe rerouting you because it can see the dead and you're speeding toward. The narcissist will rage against these closed doors. They will accuse fate, the universe, you, and even God of being against them. They see obstruction as a personal insult. You, however, need to learn to see it as a personal shield. The frustration you felt wasn't a sign you were failing. It was a sign you were being guided away from a path that would have led to your utter depletion. When you look back, you'll see a trail of breadcrumbs, not leading you to them, but leading you away from a version of your life that would have been a beautiful prison. Thank God for the closed doors. He was the only one brave enough to shut them, knowing you'd one day understand it was love, not loss. You thought you were special. You thought your connection was unique, transcendent, different from all the others. They may have even told you that. My ex was crazy. My last business partner was a thief. My former friends were all users. They presented themselves as the perpetual victim of other people's betrayals and inadequacies. But then, you started to notice the cracks. The stories didn't fully align. You heard a different version from an outside source. Or most chillingly, you began to see yourself being cast in the same role their villainous ex played. This, sign number 7, is the revelation of the pattern, a pattern so blatant it becomes divine evidence. God doesn't just protect you through feelings and closed doors. He also protects you through information, allowing you to see the pattern of destruction they leave in their wake is a major clue. When you discover that every single one of their past relationships ended in dramatic, messy betrayal, with them always as the blameless victim, it's a data point. When you see them employing the same love bombing, devaluing, and discarding tactics with you that they did with others, it's a revelation. The pattern is the narcissist's true signature. Their charm is the pen, but the pattern is the indelible ink. This realization is a moment of severe grace. It shatters the myth of your special, singular connection. It hurts because it means the intimacy you felt was part of a cycle, not a unique destination. But this pain is the pain of truth setting you free from a personalized lie. You weren't crazy. You were caught in a well-rehearsed play. Seeing the pattern is like being given the villain's playbook. It takes their power away because you can now predict the next act. This knowledge is a divine shield. It protects you from future hoovering attempts when they try to suck you back in. Because you now understand it's not about love. It's about supply and control. It protects your healing by validating that the problem was systemic to them, not specific to you. When God shows you the pattern, He is arming you with discernment. You are no longer a blind participant in their drama. You are a conscious observer who has been handed the truth. And that truth is your ticket off the merry-go-round. They were so shiny in the beginning. The success, the confidence, the exciting lifestyle, the intense gaze, the grand philosophies. They were a human trophy, and being chosen by them felt like winning. But trophies are cold, hard, and meant to be displayed, not to hold. Sign number 8 is the moment the glamour, the shiny object, lost its luster, and all you were left with was the cold, grinding mechanism of their need for control and admiration. This deglamorization is a sacred process. It is God stripping away the glitter to show you the cheap plaster underneath. The expensive gifts start to feel like payments. The thrilling stories start to sound like boasts. The confidence reveals itself as arrogance. The exciting chaos becomes exhausting instability. The person you put on a pedestal is suddenly just a person, and not a very kind or secure one at that. This isn't you becoming jaded. It's you becoming clear-sighted. The shine was never the point. It was the bait. It was designed to hook your dreams, your insecurities, your desire for a more exciting life. Once you were hooked, The maintenance of the shine became your responsibility. You had to prop up their image, defend their reputation, and suppress your own needs to keep the prize from tarnishing. The moment you stopped seeing a trophy and started seeing a taskmaster was the moment of your spiritual awakening. This loss of illusion is a profound kindness. It returns your power. When you see the mechanism, the need for fuel, the insecurity, the emptiness, you realize this person is not superior to you. They are, in fact, operating from a profound deficit. Your pity may replace your fear. Your clarity may replace your obsession. The divine purpose here is to break the spell of specialness that kept you bound. You are being shown that you are not in a relationship with a god or a gem, but with a machine programmed to extract. And no one wants to marry a machine. This disillusionment is the solid ground upon which you can finally rebuild a real life. For a long time, the evidence was circumstantial, a feeling here, a closed door there, a worried friend, a slip of the mask. You could explain it away, blame yourself, or cling to the good moments. But then it happened. The final, unambiguous, undeniable act. The caught lie that couldn't be spun. The cruel betrayal that had no loving explanation. The discard so cold it left frostbite on your soul. In that moment, all the whispers became a roar. All the doubts became certainty. Sign number 9 is that brutal, gift-wrapped-in pain package of unmistakable confirmation. This moment feels like the worst thing that could ever happen. It feels like the ultimate defeat. But from the vantage point of your soul's journey, it is often the necessary catalyst for final freedom. God doesn't always spare us pain. Sometimes He uses the pain we are already in to sever the cord we've been too afraid to cut ourselves. The narcissist's final, overt act of cruelty or betrayal is the universe's way of saying, "See? Do you see it now? You can't unsee this. Now walk." This confirmation, as awful as it is, serves several holy purposes. 1. It ends the ambiguity, the back and forth. The maybe they'll change, the hope, it's vaporized. The path forward, though painful, is now clear, away from them. 2. It validates your entire experience. Every gut feeling, every moment of confusion was leading to this moment of truth. You weren't crazy. You were being prepared for this revelation. 3. It breaks the trauma bond. The addictive push-pull cycle, idealization/devaluation, needs ambiguity to survive. A blatant, horrific act can shock the system enough to break the addictive pattern. 4. It mobilizes your anger. Righteous anger is a God-given force for survival. That final betrayal often ignites it, giving you the fuel you need to finally leave and stay gone. Don't curse this moment. As counterintuitive as it sounds, thank God for it. It was the harsh, loving scalpel that cut out the infection so you could finally begin to heal. It was the demolition of the prison, allowing light to flood into the cell you'd been decorating. The confirmation wasn't sent to destroy you. It was sent to destroy the illusion that was already destroying you. You stand in the aftermath. The dust of the explosion is settling. You are bruised, scarred, and bone-tired. The landscape of your life looks unfamiliar. But as you take a breath, that first clean breath of relief, you feel something else. A solidity under your feet you forgot existed. A quiet in your mind that feels like peace. And then, a new sensation, a fierce, protective, undeniable strength. It's not the brittle, defensive armor you wore to survive them. It's a deep, calm, resilient power rising from your core. This, sign number 10, and the most glorious of all, is the emergence of the spiritual warrior. This is the ultimate purpose of the divine protection. The journey through a relationship with a narcissist is a forced descent into your own underworld. You battle shadows, face monsters, theirs and your own, and are stripped of everything you thought defined you. But in that total stripping, something miraculous happens. You find the unshakable core that was there all along. The part of you that survived is not just a survivor. It is a sovereign. You have gained a PhD in human nature, a master's in boundaries, and a black belt in discernment. This newfound strength manifests in ways that prove you were not just saved from something, but saved for something. Unshakable boundaries. You now know, in your cells, what you will and will not tolerate. You can say no without guilt and yes with full enthusiasm. Piercing discernment. You can spot inauthenticity, manipulation, and emptiness from a mile away. Your intuition, now honed in the fire, is your most trusted advisor. Deep self-love. The love you once poured into a black hole is now directed inward. You nurture yourself with the ferocity you once reserved for trying to fix them. A mission of empathy. You develop a radar for others who are hurting in similar ways. Your pain becomes purpose, and you may find yourself gently guiding others toward their own light. This warrior is not bitter. She is compassionate. He is not closed off. He is wisely guarded. This is the person God was protecting all along. The ordeal wasn't a random tragedy. It was the crucible necessary to forge this version of you, a version too powerful, too discerning, and too free to ever be captured again. The protection wasn't just about getting you out. It was about building you up. You didn't lose a love story. You gained a self. And that self, this warrior, is the greatest sign that every bit of divine intervention was worth it. You are the proof that it worked. So look back, not with regret, but with revelation. See the breadcrumbs of grace in the chaos, the gut instinct, the sabotage plans, the loyal friends, the shattered idol, the final, freeing betrayal. They were all signposts, placed by a loving force that could see the whole map when you were lost in the weeds. You were not being punished. You were being shielded. You were not being denied love. You were being redirected to the source of it, within yourself. The narcissist was a lesson, not a destiny. And the strength you have now, the peace you are cultivating, the warrior you have become, that is your destiny. Walk in it. You are free. You are protected. You are home.